Are you overwhelmed by the challenge of personalizing communication for thousands of students? That's where Element 451's AI assistants come in. From nudging prospective students to guiding those already on their journey, AI assistants don't just automate, they write, build, and optimize every step of your digital campaigns. Discover how at element451.com/AI team.
Hi, I'm a higher ed CMO and I have a confession to make. I am very grateful to no longer be competing with Grant Heston at VCU for students. Grant is such a wonderful marketer and somebody with whom I have a lot in common. And unfortunately, he was just up the road from me when I was at Old Dominion University at Virginia Commonwealth University, which was one of our big competitors. And he is just killing it up there. Grant is the vice president for enterprise marketing communications for both Virginia Commonwealth University and VCU Health. He's been there for about 4 years, and he built the first integrated branding, communications, and marketing division that serves both the university and the health system. Grant and I were both journalism majors in college, although we were from opposite ends of the country, with me being from Minnesota and him going to the University of Florida. But we have so much in common, and I hope you'll enjoy this conversation. It's wide-ranging, everything from AI to branding to marketing health systems to collaboration to creativity. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Welcome to Confessions of a Higher Ed CMO, a podcast that empowers higher ed marketers to bring innovation, creativity, and excellence to their work. I'm your host, Jaime Hunt. Join me every 2 weeks for discussions with some of the best minds in higher education marketing. Confessions of a Higher Ed CMO is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher educational professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. I'm so happy to be here with my former Virginia Public University colleague, Grant Heston. Grant, how are you?
I'm doing well, Jaime. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
I am so excited about having you on the show. And I've been wanting to have Grant on the show for a while and was trying to pick the perfect topic. And I'm kind of like Franken-topicking here with talking about two sort of adjacent things. But the first is, I saw, Grant, that you posted on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago guidelines that your team developed around using AI or key principles. And I'm really interested in how you developed those and why, but can you start with just sharing what those key principles are?
Sure. It was a really fun process. I'm glad that we did it. It probably took a little longer than I had wanted to, but the process reminded me of that old expression that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So we had a big group and we went together and we developed what we call are some principles. And so they're just really more mission statement type of things. So it just starts off by saying we are going to use AI in a way that aligns with our core values, use AI to support the mission of VCU and VCU Health, use AI to enhance creative and content development that aligns with the brand, be a model for the use of AI in higher education and healthcare, be transparent about how we use AI, and then fact-checked before using anything created by AI. So those are kind of the guiding principles of what we want to do. We have another set of principles that are very clear about how we're not going to use AI. The team thought that was important to include. So we are not going to rely on AI to replace human intelligence. We are not going to mislead, create bias or discrimination, violate privacy or intellectual property, plagiarize by not disclosing the use of AI, or use AI as a primary source. So I think between the how we're going to use it, how we're not going to use it, that gives us a nice set of guardrails to go and do wonderful, creative, innovative things.
I absolutely love that. And I do AI workshops around the country. And one of the things I often get asked when I'm meeting with potential clients is, how do I get the folks that are reluctant about AI on board? And I really feel like, well, what I usually say is, you really need to address the ethical issues, because that's often the biggest concern that people who are opposed to using AI, often the biggest concern that they have. And I love that these principles really set, like you're saying, these guardrails and kind of make it, I think, less concerning to use AI, because you're addressing really ethics in these principles.
Right. And it was funny when we put out the call to form this group to talk about AI, we were very purposeful of saying, hey, we want people who are interested in AI and want to use it. We also want to have people who are dubious about it, or maybe a little bit more questioning. And so we did have, as part of our group, folks who feel that AI is something we should probably not use, but also having the awareness that it's out there and we're going to be using it. So let's set up those guardrails and have some ethics around how we use it. And I will say, transparency was really big in our discussion. I mean, all of these are important, but the idea of being transparent about, hey, this was an image that was created primarily using AI, or this was a set of brand points that was created using AI, being really upfront and honest about that was important to our group.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Why was that important to y'all?
Because I think it goes to the idea of misinformation or misleading, and that you don't want to create, we talked a lot about imagery. And so where's the fine line between, you've got this great campus photo, but it's cloudy out and you put, sunny skies in the background, versus you've got a great campus photo, but you want to have more students in it. So you use AI to populate it with students. And there's a gray lines there. And so that's why we talk really clearly about, we're not going to try to mislead, we're not going to manipulate, and we're going to be transparent when we use AI in a way that meaningfully impacts the final outcome.
I really appreciate that distinction, and kind of thinking about it as like misinformation. I think about those house listings that you sometimes see where it's like, what are those power lines, or have all been photoshopped out and things like that. And I definitely see that could be a lot of potential for misleading content out there.
It is so funny, Jaime, when we moved to Virginia and we listed our house in Florida, we saw the photos that were posted on the listing, and I was like, holy mo, this place is beautiful. I never knew I lived in such a wonderful neighborhood, and the lighting is just magnificent,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then they use those super wide angle cameras, so it looks like the rooms are gigantic. You're like, wow, my closet was bigger than I thought it was.
Or like in the living room, you have, oh gosh, my TV looks like it's a 180-inch TV.
Right. I love it. So I really loved what you just said about, going fast, going far, going together. And one of the things I've been consistently impressed with you about, and your posts on LinkedIn in particular, is it seems like you post a lot about collaboration. And I feels like this project is another example of that collaboration. And I'm curious about, how you foster that really collaborative culture on your team.
Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words. It means a lot coming from you. You're someone who I admire and follow and have just been super impressed with. In terms of collaboration, I would say probably early in my career, I tended to really push the gas pedal more than I do now. Like, let's move, let's go fast, let's get things done, let's get what's on to next. I think as I've gotten a little bit more experienced, I tend to say there are some things where you need to definitely do that. There are others, this project probably being a good example, where collaboration, getting buy-in, hearing all the different voices are probably more important. And I think as a leader, if you can do that, show a willingness to listen to different points of view, to not always put your view out there first. I would say way earlier in my career, before even my higher ed career, I worked for someone who you'd sit down in a meeting and there'd be an issue or an opportunity. And before you could even really get into the discussion, the boss would say, hey, here's what I want to do. Here's what I think. What's your opinion? So that immediately puts you in the position of either having to disagree with your boss or just saying, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Either way, as a leader, that's the trouble spot for you. So I try really hard in most areas not to sort of prescribe what I'm thinking or where I want to go. And so with this project, we just opened it up to say, hey, where do we think, what are the areas we want to emphasize? We created sub work groups within our group to look at ethics, to look at compliance with state laws, those types of things. So it really was, I think, a collaborative effort that led to what I humbly think is a really nice product. It's a guide, not too prescriptive, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I like how you described it as being guardrails, because
Mhm.
it isn't like this is how you will use it, and it doesn't have a level of granularity that sort of puts people in a box, but it sets those guardrails. And I'm thinking about my friend Kevin McClure when I posted about AI a couple of months ago, was like, a lot of faculty are very hesitant about its use, and my point of view is that you have to understand AI. And you have to understand, like to your point, doing the research and all of that in order to be able to set up guardrails. And it's definitely not something that I would recommend just one person speak into. Was this like a cross-campus team, or was it just communicators, or what kind of folks did you have involved?
Yeah, this was, we have an interesting setup here at VCU where we call ourselves Enterprise Marketing and Communications. And what that means is we serve the university. We also serve the health system. And so we had university health system representatives. The guides are developed for both entities. But as part of it, we included, IT leadership. We included some of our legal leadership about, what are the state requirements that we have to make sure that we abide by, all those types of things. So it was really a communications and marketing driven effort. And it's designed for our division to use. So we're not suggesting the arts department use this or engineering, but this is really designed for us.
Oh, I love that. I love that you brought legal in, particularly, I was in Virginia higher ed before I went out on my own. And I know the governor has some things to say about how it should be used and not used. And so having those folks at the table, I think, was probably a big help to you.
Oh, no, absolutely. And their guidance is always important. And I would say, I think Virginia's done a good job of trying to set expectations on how it will be used in the public governmental area. And so we wanted to make sure we aligned with that.
Yeah, for sure. How do you see AI influencing the collaborative nature of your team? Do you see it as being something that can help in a positive way, negative way, neutral?
Well, I think it's, AI is a tool, and it's, it all really depend upon how you use that tool. We use it, I think, in positive ways in terms of creative brainstorming. How do you get some ideas started? How do you test some things? How do you accelerate maybe some of that creative output? It could be troublesome, I think, if it starts to replace your collective brainstorming and idea generation. If you use it as a augment as opposed to sort of the primary source, I think that's the way to go. But we were talking the other day. I think one of the great ways you can use AI is you think about enrollment marketing. Think about all the postcards, right, that go out. Though, and most of them are just sort of informational about open house or financial aid, kind of fill in the blank. You can really use AI to really quickly generate, populate, and get those out the door a lot faster than you used to. And then that frees up your time to be much more creative and think about the big picture strategies that you want to pursue, as opposed to being kind of bogged down with, iterative postcard version, 17 or whatever.
Are you using it at all for data analysis?
We use a little bit in terms of our enrollment work and our content development. We have an outside media partner, and we work with them on that quite a bit. It's advanced kind of A/B testing sort of stuff.
Oh, very cool. One of the things I'm building right now is a predictive analytics model. And this is the thing, like there's no one way to do things. There's no instructions for how to do things out there. So I'm trying to build this model that lets you kind of dump a large data set in and make some decisions based on how it slices that data up in a way to decide like this particular zip code is producing, this many more students for our campus or whatever, and that kind of thing, which I think is so helpful.
Yeah, well, let's take a deeper dive into that, Jaime, because I'm fascinated. I'm a journalism undergrad major. There is no way I would ever pretend to try to be able to build a predictive analytics tool. How are you going about doing that?
Yeah, so I'm also a journalism major and definitely not a math person. So honestly, this is going to sound crazy. I asked ChatGPT to help me figure out how to build this model, right? And so I'm supposed to be getting the data from my client today or Monday to be able to see if what I built actually works. But it's like trying to it told me like, this is what you need. And then I was like, okay, then what do I need to ask you to do? And it broke that down for me. And then I'm going to get this data set and I'm going to play around until it gives me the result that I want. It's a lot of trial and error. But when I think about tools like ChatGPT and Copilot and all of those, it's like the big thing at the end of the day is like, just play with it. You know what I mean? Like I said, there's no like, here's how you do this, here's how you do that, like there is for Excel or PowerPoint or whatever. It's a matter of just playing with it to figure it out.
Well, that's just super impressive. I just love that you're able to use ChatGPT to create that kind of content and stuff for us non-math journalism majors. It gives us a little hope.
Right. Oh, fun. Well, my dad had like a really good head for math and was, definitely a math person. When I was growing up, I thought I was just this big math dummy because my dad was like so brilliant with math. And now as an adult, I'm realizing, no, I'm just normal level of math dumb, not extra math dumb. So that's a good learning as an adult.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was 4th grade, maybe 5th grade, when my son had a math problem and he was like, can you help me with it? And I took a look at it and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll be right back. And I walked into the closet and it was like, hey, Siri, how do you do X, Y, Z? I'm like, so 4th grade or 5th grade math was my limit.
I love it. Now we have Siri.
Oh, yeah, that's my Siri right here trying to answer my math problems for me.
I love it. Pivoting back to, AI and your team, how do you think your branding approaches might change due to AI? Or do you think it's not going to?
That's a great question. When I think of brand, I think of 3 words, and I use these all the time here at VCU. I think your brand has to be authentic. It has to be who you are. And you can't pretend to be something you're not because people will see right through that. But your brand also isn't a mirror just reflecting who you are. So I think it also needs to be aspirational. It should help you see the best version of yourself and the path to get to that best version. And then the last thing is it really needs to be distinctive. I mean, you know this better than anybody. There are 4,000 colleges, universities out there around the country. How do you stand out? How do you make yourself distinctive? How do you break through that noise? So when I think about AI in terms of those 3 kind of brand principles, I really think AI could help on the creative side in the distinctive pocket, because your authenticity is who you are. Aspiration that's really a lot of strategic plan and long-term vision. But the distinctiveness, how do you not look like every other university? How do you not have that same kind of appeal is where I think you could use AI to a great degree. But what are you're working with so many different institutions. How are you hearing and seeing it?
In terms of brand, so a lot of the schools that I'm working with I'm actually working with more the recruiting side of things. So we're talking about how you can leverage AI to extend teams. So a lot of the recruitment offices that I work with don't have their own marketing teams, or they have like a person or maybe 2 people. And so how can they leverage AI to build, to create, like, to your point, some of that informational content, to build out some Conflows that have those informational content so that they're able to accomplish more with their limited resources. From a brand perspective, I have found it to be helpful for doing like competitor analysis where you might have used Google in the past. I think you can use ChatGPT or Claude or Copilot or whatever to kind of say like, hey, go scour this website and come back and give me some of the key talking points that they have or some of the keywords that you're able to discern from this content, that kind of thing. I think from to your point, the distinctiveness piece, I think that's like another chance. I'm a 1-person shop now, so that's sort of lonely, but ChatGPT is sort of my coworker to say like, does this resonate? It's a lot for me. It's more about the resonance that I'm using AI for is like building out a persona. Like this is starting to get complicated, but building a custom GPT that has a persona of your prospective student and then asking that persona, does this resonate with you? And I'm going to give full credit to for that idea to Brian Piper, who's super good and smart at this kind of stuff. But asking it, does this content resonate with you as the persona of this student? What else would you want to know as this type of student? That kind of thing. So for me, it's that resonance side.
That's fascinating. I love the idea of building out the profile of your student and asking your virtual student questions. I also think it can help we both had experience in marketing in higher ed, and we may come up with an idea and we're like, oh my gosh, that's great. But maybe I've totally forgotten, oh, that was something, University of Florida did 7 years ago, and I'm sort of just stealing it from friends that I knew there. I think you can test that kind of stuff out with AI in a way that you probably couldn't 5 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. You made me think about when I was at a previous institution and we were working on the brand, and the partner that we were working with gave us 3 concepts. And the one we fell in love with, we started to move forward with. And then we hired Nate Jorgensen, who joined our team from University of Cincinnati. And he was like, hey guys, so the College of something at University of Cincinnati is using this concept. And we're like, oh no, that's terrible. But I love the idea of like, hey, ChatGPT, is anybody else doing this? Is anybody else using this tagline or, this concept, fill in the blank? Thank God for Nate, or we would have been like copying a school 45 minutes down the road from us.
Yeah, no, that's always the terror, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned earlier in your guidelines, like human intelligence being something that you're going to stick with. And you talked a little bit about creativity. And I'm curious about your thoughts on balancing the use of AI with the need for human creativity and human intelligence.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's the crux of the whole issue, right? And I recall that early on in our discussions as a group when developing these guidelines, somebody said, well, I just don't want to use AI at all very much, or I hardly ever use AI. I've only experimented with ChatGPT once. And so we started talking, well, do you use spell check? Do you use, Grammarly? If you're editing photos, how much do you let Photoshop do versus yourself? And so you're using AI every day in ways that have just become familiar and comfortable. And so we want to make sure that the way we use it, as I said earlier, is it's appropriate as for a public institution to use. So in terms of creativity, we'll use it to brainstorm ideas or images, or we're working on actually a end of the year kind of holiday wrap-up video. So how do we storyboard that using AI tools? As that can maybe go a little bit faster than if we were storyboarding ourselves. How do we ask for, hey, what would be a really cool end of the year holiday video for a university in Virginia with this kind of student population, all of that, and see what it comes up with. And we may use none of it. We may use some of it. I've yet to be involved with an AI kind of creative brainstorm where we've said, hey, you know what? This is it. 100%. We are done. Thank you very much, and walk away. It's always providing either a kernel of an idea or something that you can take from what AI gives you and bolt it on to something else that you're already doing.
I think that's so true. The idea of just taking it and plunking it into the marketplace, it's not going to work. And I think that's some of the people who distrust and dislike AI are not necessarily realizing that you're not using it for a finished product. You're using it to sort of augment your thoughts. Or, for example, I finished a chapter for a book that I'm contributing to yesterday. My brain was dead after that, right? Like it was like there was no room for any further creativity. And so that I had a couple other things I needed to do after that. And that was when I really leaned into ChatGPT to be my brainstorming partner here, because I'm all out of creativity today.
And in terms of the creativity, I can give you an example that's happening right now. We just redesigned the VCU license plate earlier this summer. And so we're launching a campaign to get attention to it. It's a very visual campaign, and we call it Not That You Would, But You Could. And the premise is not that you would. And so we might have somebody that's got a new hairstyle, like with big old ram horns as their hair. Or we've got one where it's somebody that has got a giant like VCU back tattoo. Right. So that not that you would, and then the flip is, but you could, and then it's the VCU license plate showing your pride, all that stuff. It's really cute, funny stuff. But in the past, we would have had to have a model and mock up a big old back tattoo or get wigs and all that. We used AI to do it. And so on the ads and the tags, it says image generated by AI. So we feel, one, that saved us money. Two, it helped us be creative. And 3, we're being transparent with the users to say, hey, this is how this image was created.
I love that. First of all, I love the concept. And I'm super glad that I'm no longer at a school in competition with you. But second of all, I love that as a use case for generating imagery with AI.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's efficient. It helped with creativity. I think our team had the idea of, hey, here's the campaign we want to run. Here's the image we're looking for. But rather than physically going out and doing it ourselves and investing all that time, energy, and money, we spend time with one of our image generating tools and we create it. And then we have a little tagline of image generated by AI.
I adore that. I'm thinking about a project that we just agonized over when I was at Miami University, where we wanted each section of the view book to have like a spread leading into it where somebody was spelling out like the name of the section with a sparkler after dark, right? And I used to do a lot of night photography. I don't know if you ever have, but it's really, really hard, right? Like that's, you can't really see what's being spelled out until you look at the back of the camera afterwards, and it takes forever. And it was so hard for us to accomplish. And thinking about what you just said, like we could have probably just used AI to generate what that looked like. And that would have been amazing.
Yeah. And so I think it's just trying to experiment with ideas like that. And, this is something fun and interesting and lighthearted vanity license plate that you're trying to get people to buy to show, VCU's spirit and pride around the state. Maybe that is different if it's, a faculty guidebook on classroom procedures. Maybe that just does not lend itself to AI,
Right.
whereas other things do.
Yeah, I'm teaching this semester, and one of the things I've been trying to think about is how to talk to my students about AI, because obviously the handbook and the syllabus says that you cannot use AI to produce your work without the professor's permission. And so far, nobody's asked me for permission, but I've been trying to formulate like where I would say it's acceptable. And I actually think like bringing a concept to light, like what you're saying, and then disclosing that you used AI to use that would be a good use case for it, in fact.
Yeah, sort of like developed by humans, executed by AI.
Yeah, because it's really, most people aren't the Photoshop wizards that would be able to do that. Most people are not the hair and makeup styling wizards that would be able to do that. So having a tool that lets you do that, if you're disclosing it, I think is a really helpful thing. Hey, it's Jaime. Element 451 is hosting the AI Engage Summit on October 29th and 30th. This free virtual event features many of your favorite Enrollify creators and will explore AI's impact on student engagement, enrollment marketing, and institutional success. Learn to tap into AI to automate personalized outreach, improve your emails, streamline content creation, and boost campaign performance. Plus, hear directly from current students on how AI is influencing their engagement and campus life. And don't miss my session, AI Centricity, Accelerating Student Success and Innovation in Higher Education at 2 p.m. on October 30th. The AI Engage Summit is your guide to understanding and applying AI at your school. Registration is free. Visit element451.com to save your spot. Now back to the show.
Yeah, and that's one of the things here at VCU I'm really excited about is that this fall we've debuted 2 AI minors. A lot of universities, when you have AI majors or minors, they're really tracked for computer science or other disciplines. These are designed for any student can take them. So if you're an English major or an arts major or an engineering major, this is a track that will help you become more fluent and conversant and able to navigate a increasingly AI world. And so if I were a student, that's the kind of thing I would be really interested in because I'm not a computer science major, but how could I use this in the field that I'm choosing?
Oh my gosh, I'm in love with that. That's because you're right. All the certificates I've seen so far have been very like how to build a large language model and how to do this and how to do that. And honestly, like I build a lot of custom GPTs, and that's basically what the predictive analytics thing is going to end up being is a custom GPT. But that's really building a model as well. And it's sort of decoupling that from being a computer science or a programming thing, I think takes some of that intimidation out of it for like you and I were not math majors.
Right, right. Yeah, so there's not many times where I want to revisit my undergraduate days, but this is an opportunity I was like, that'd be pretty cool to do that.
Yeah. Can you take classes as a staff person in that, or do you have to be enrolled in a program to take those classes?
That's a great question. I should probably look that up. We've been so busy promoting the existence of the minors and the other tracks that we have that I haven't really taken the time to know if I could do it. But I'm going to write myself a note and look into that right after this.
Yeah, I might be looking into it after
Mm-hmm.
this. So one of the things that I mentioned in your bio is that, and you mentioned earlier when you were talking about you oversee enterprise marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and part of that is VCU Health, and that was something when I was at ODU. We merged with Eastern Virginia Medical School, and that was going to be a part of my portfolio. And I worked really closely with Vincent Rhodes, who was the communicator for Eastern Virginia Medical School. I'm really interested in what your org chart looks like when you're serving both VCU Health and the university enterprise.
No, it's fascinating, and I've really loved the process of creating this, unified brand communications marketing team. And what I'd say first off is that this is based on research. So when we started doing brand research, it was clear that in the public's eye, VCU and VCU Health, there's no distinction. It was one entity, even though they are separate legal entities. In the public's mind, what happened with one impacted the other. So if that's the case, we really need to have, I think, much more centralized strategic managing of what I would say is the most important asset you have is your brand, your reputation. So that was the starting point. And then we started just working with university leadership, health system leadership, both of the boards, to create what we call enterprise marketing and communications, which is responsible for the brand for both. Now, we're smart enough to know marketing to 17 and 18-year-old prospective college students is very different than marketing to expectant mothers or to, oncology patients. But the principles, the themes by which you do that can be very similar and should be unified. So one of the examples that if I'm out talking to deans or to department chairs or to clinicians is to say, the brand is our central star. All the planets should rotate around that. So we should look like we're in the same solar system. So we're not trying to make a Pauli Hart Center, which is nationally renowned for its, cardiology care, look and sound like a school of engineering, but they need to look like they're orbiting the same star. And so that's been kind of our guide, our mantra. And I would say, I think it's been pretty successful. We're coming up on 2 years of doing that. We've got a pretty integrated team. We share assets across a lot of areas, I think. Most notably, probably our photo and video teams are very integrated. Our media buying is very integrated. Crisis communications, issues management, media relations, very integrated. One great example is we had a position that the university needed and the health system needed, but they didn't need a full position each, right? So you're looking at, well, are we really going to hire 2 people and then try to figure out what we're going to do with 50% of their time, or do you hire one person and just split them down the middle for the university and health system? So in that sense, it saved us money and it's made us more efficient.
Are there a lot of other universities that have this model? Because I feel like it's fairly uncommon to have that level of integration.
It is. I think most are set up. Well, I don't want to say most are set up any certain way. There's a lot of variety, but I would say what we've done here is pretty uncommon. I've had a couple conversations with folks who wanted to learn a little bit about how we've done it, if they want to pursue that. But I've enjoyed it. I've learned an awful lot because my background was primarily in university marketing, though I've worked with schools of medicine and nursing and a burgeoning health system in Orlando. But this is really taking it to a next level. But so far, the results have been really positive. So we're going to keep at it until somebody tells us not to. I
love it. And I've had people ask about, maybe they want to pivot out of higher ed and what kind of industries do I think would translate really well. And I've always felt like healthcare is one of those. To your point, marketing to a pregnant, 30-year-old woman is different than a 17-year-old high school senior. But when you think about sort of the structures of healthcare and the departments, and the departments have heads and they have a lot at at a medical school that has a hospital, those department heads are on a faculty. So
Mhm.
I think it's very analogous.
Yeah, they're both, I'd say, very highly regulated industries, both populated with really, really smart people, which means as a marketer or communicator, we have to be on our A game all the time. And they also impact and transform lives. We
Yeah.
don't have to go into how we do it, in healthcare or higher ed, but we know that's the case. And so I would say it's very rewarding being able to live in both worlds and touch on a whole bunch of different things.
I absolutely love the VCU brand. Can you tell us a little bit about the VCU brand and then how you kind of apply that to VCU Health?
Sure. A lot of folks talk about marketing and branding as being, an art and a science. I tend to lean into the science first a lot. So we conducted all sorts of interviews, focus groups, leadership, one-on-ones, surveys, all of what you'd expect. And what it really came down to is we kept hearing a lot of, hey, we do things differently here. Our student population is different. Our research portfolio is different. All these things. And somebody said it very clearly. They said, well, you know what? At the end of the day, VCU is just an orange in a bowl full of apples. And so why are we comparing ourselves to apples if we're really an orange? And so we took that. And then for me, the big piece is when we started looking at, here's what most people think of higher ed. And this is a really visual story, but I'll try to paint the picture. We have put these slides up that say, here's a beautiful green space college campus. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. But that's not VCU. Here's VCU. And we put up a vibrant downtown landscape because we are in the heart of Richmond. And it says, we are not like these other places. Let's be the best version of ourselves. So what we started talking about is that we're really uncommon. We're maybe the Commonwealth University, but we're uncommon, or we're unstoppable, or we're undeniable. And it's really a visual and kind of emotional platform by which we can go tell wonderful stories. And so that was the first piece. We launched with the university, that brand. Then we spent time doing the same process with the health system. And what we landed with the health system is very similar, but a little bit different in a key way, in that with the health system, we'll say we're uncommon, but we match it up with an impact word. So uncommon compassion or, undeniable care, to give it that healthcare flavor. And I think the result has been a unified brand that clearly shows the strength and depth and breadth of the VCU enterprise, but does it in a way that is distinctive for a health system and distinctive for a university. And then you break it down even further, distinctive for a school of engineering or a school of the arts, or distinctive for a Massey Comprehensive Cancer Center. I would say one of the places that I'm most proud of our work is with our children's hospital. It's the Children's Hospital of Richmond at VCU. And you might say, how could a children's hospital sort of embrace the same brand that university athletics does, or engineering or business? But we've executed on it in such a way that I'm just so proud that they have embraced it as much as they have. And it just shows how you can really try to tell a story across an enterprise.
I absolutely love it, in part because I feel like it breaks some of the rules in a way. Like, is kind of a negative word, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But you're taking and making it into a positive. Mm-hmm. And it's like you're adding the to something that's not necessarily good, like uncommon, undeniable. And you're kind of owning such a unique space. And I feel like it makes VCU seem so distinctive in the marketplace. And it kind of puts me in the mind of, and I hope you don't find this insulting because I don't mean it that way, but Drake University around 2010 had that D+ campaign. Mm-hmm. I loved it. The world hated it. But I loved the idea that they were taking this, like, a D+ is a good thing. It's right. D+. And I feel like you're doing it more elegantly and more effectively, but it's like where D+ walks, you're running or something like that.
Right. No, I'll have to, that you give me something to look up because I'm not immediately recalling that campaign. But with us, it's all about what's the bottom line, right? So what are we using the brand tools for? For us, it's about enrollment and reputation. So we launched the campaign and we'd had 2 years of enrollment declines, and we'd had 2 years of fewer applications. 2 years ago, we set an all-time record for undergraduate applications. Last year, we broke that. This fall, we broke that one. So we've had 3 years of record-breaking undergraduate applications. I think the brand can be looked as a partner in making that happen. When you look at Virginia level awareness, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. We measure aided and unaided awareness. Our baseline when we started was we had a 59%, which was not good. The most recent one, we've moved that up to 72%. So we're moving in the right direction. I would say are not quite a shoestring budget, but pretty close. The third area we look at is kind of that national prominence. And so one of the things that we're proud of is that 2 years ago, we launched the brand and VCU was named a top 30, I believe it was, most innovative public university by U.S. News and World Report.
Nice.
This last fall, we moved into the top 20. And those are that score is just all reputation based. And so it's not data driven. It's not about graduation rates or anything you're doing other than just your reputation. So that's one that's important to us of saying, hey, maybe we are making some strides in that direction.
Those are some remarkable statistics. I mean, to go from 59 to 72 in that time period is absolutely impressive. And I'm really curious though, because you talked about those rankings. Do you do rankings campaigns?
We do. What I would say, not necessarily rankings campaigns. I would say like most folks were aware of when the voting takes place and that we're probably year round in some of those higher ed specific spaces trying to make sure people know who we are, what we do, and the impact that we have. Another big one for us is since 2018, our sponsored research, I think, has grown by 72%. So last year we hit 464 million, which puts us in the top 50 of all public universities. So those are the types of things that we try to share just so that folks know that there's something really cool happening here in Richmond. And I should say too, use the word I a lot in these kind of podcasts and these conversations. I want to be clear. It is a total team effort from enterprise marketing communications to partners in enrollment, to partners with our provost, to our president, who is just a great supporter of not just our work, but just the idea that branding, communications, marketing is an essential element of a university. And then really to our board. We've had a really, really supportive, engaged board in this effort. And I think, Jaime, you know, in these kind of roles, that's so important.
Oh my gosh. Boards can make or break what is invested in your area too. I've had the privilege of working with a board that was like, you need to give her more money. Like this isn't like what she's doing is great. Imagine what she can do if she had more. And suddenly, multiple hundreds, thousands of dollars appear in my budget the next week. Like I love that.
Right.
But you mentioned like your team. And I've met some members of your team and been so impressed. And I'm really interested because I talk to so many people that are having a really hard time recruiting right now, particularly given that a lot of folks that work in the creative fields can work fully remote. And, a lot of universities aren't necessarily allowing fully remote positions. I'm really curious about how you're recruiting people these days and how that's going for you.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head is that hybrid remote, it's here to stay. At least my experience has been. We had a position we recruited for in the health system last year. Really cool position, really impactful. I think it was compensated well. We allowed it to be remote, but saying, hey, probably like once a quarter, you're going to need to be spending maybe 3-4 days a week on campus. And that was a deal breaker for our top candidate.
Wow.
He said he really wasn't interested in even being here once a quarter for 3 or 4 days. And we see a little bit of that in other areas. So we're very, in our division, we're very open to hybrid work, fully remote work in ways that make sense. But we also are purposeful about bringing folks together. We call them division days. So twice a semester or 4 times a year for the health system who doesn't work on semesters, we'll bring everybody together for a half a day of events and lunch or breakfast and, talks and brainstorms and all that. We actually have our first one for the fall scheduled for next Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to that.
So one of the things that you post on LinkedIn that I absolutely adore is your Between Two Rams series. Tell me more about that and why you do that.
That is, it's fun. It's silly. It's designed to break through our hybrid remote world. So basically what it is once a month, I'll sit down and talk with somebody from either the university or health system marketing and communications team. And it started off kind of traditional, sort of just in a studio and chairs and we're on a couch. After about the second or third one, we said, there's just something missing. And so what we've done is we've taken them out into the real world. And so I've ridden the 2-person bike with our creative director around campus. I have done yoga with somebody. We did one where we were running on a treadmill in the gym, all sorts of different things. And it just really showcases the folks in our division to our division when you may not see them. So if, our executive speechwriter, for instance, she's here in my office with me. I see her every day. People in the health system may not see her, but 2 or 3 times a year. And they may not have no idea that she is this fantastic fiddle player who plays in a band all around town. And so we had a conversation where she played a whole bunch of the fiddle. And they're just fun ways to connect in what is increasingly sort of that hybrid remote world.
I absolutely love it. And I love just like the whole concept of doing it in a really creative way that I bet people are like, let's go see what thing they're doing this time with the video.
Yeah, it's to my worry, it's evolved a little bit into how can we find embarrassing things for Grant to do. So I've been on the basketball court cheerleading.
Nice.
I have done yoga. I've been on treadmill, the 2-person bike. Somebody tried to get me to sing karaoke, and that's where I just draw the line. I'm like, no, you can sing. I am not going to sing. Nobody on God's green earth wants to hear that.
I feel like we have so much in common.
Yeah, but they've been really fun to do, and everyone's been a really good sport about it. And I should really thank our video team because they go above and beyond to make it easy, to make it fun, to help brainstorm ideas. And so it's been well received. It's been one of those things we said, let's just start it as a lark and see if anything happens. And we're coming up on 2 years of doing it.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yep.
One of the things that I would love to pick your brain around is how do you build credibility with folks across campus? Because you must have done that in order to have this enterprise marketing team. How did you approach doing that?
When I came to VCU, we had a board meeting probably in my second month. And so I said, hey, what do we typically give the board? And I got about 100 pages of stuff, social media posts, ad impressions, New York Times, this or whatever. And what it really told me is that we didn't have a great understanding of the board and leadership of what it is we're doing and why we're doing it. So I spent a lot of time working with the president, key members of the cabinet, key members of the board to say, what is it that you want to know about? What are the business outcomes you want us to affect? And then let me come back and tell you how we're going to do it, and really just kind of come up with a dashboard. So we have a dashboard, and this is on the university side, that we report out on pretty regularly. It's around enrollment, applications, national prominence, awareness, a couple other things. And that really streamlined what we do and why we do it. We have something similar we're working with the health system on, as we just launched the brand a little later than we did the university. So we're still working on that exact dashboard. But I think that's how you build some credibility, is what are the business outcomes we're trying to do? And I say all the time here that I just said it. Actually, we had a new board member orientation yesterday, and I led by saying, I have the best job at VCU because I get to tell all the stories of our students, faculty, staff, clinicians, patients to the world. And that's a lot of fun. But we don't do it because it's fun. We do it because we're trying to affect business outcomes. And here we go about doing it. And so that's, I think, trying to connect what we do to the business outcomes is really important. But then also just being present. When it's easy to be a communications and marketing leader when times are good. When you have issues on campus or in your community, are you going to step up and help make tough decisions? Are you going to make those suggestions? Are you going to be there with the leadership team when things are going on? And I try to do that.
I absolutely love that. I love that idea of talking to your board about why you do what you do. Like that's, I think it also kind of subtly conveys that the work that you're doing isn't just about making things pretty, which I think is a common misperception in our business.
Right. And it's also understanding that some board members are our target audience for things. Others may not be an enrollment target audience. And so if you don't understand the 30-second video we're shooting, that's okay. But let me tell you why we're doing it this way and why this audience is important to us.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about the time a board member once said to me, I never see any of our enrollment ads. And I was like, that's a good thing. Because
Exactly.
you're not our target audience. Do you have college-bound children? No. Do you have college-bound grandchildren? I mean, no. Like, well, why would we want to be wasting money showing you ads? But saying that in a much more diplomatic way, of course.
Right. And I talk to folks here a lot about, and this is not just a VCU thing, this has been throughout my career, of the difference between knowing something and feeling something. Because somebody might say, hey, I want so-and-so to know this. I said, well, there's some validity to that. I would probably rather say, I want them to feel something. I want them to feel confidence in sending a son or daughter here. I want them to feel good about working here. I want them to feel positive that the contributions they make are merely making a difference in the lives of our community. And I really got that from Disney. When I was in Orlando, I knew tons of folks who worked at Disney in leadership roles. And those are the kind of things that they would ask about. They'd say, hey, did you have a good experience at the Magic Kingdom? Will that make you want to buy an annual pass? Would that make you want to try a Disney cruise? Those types of things. And so I think that business mindset is something that sometimes marketing and higher ed misses. And so that's what I try to bring a little bit.
I feel like we're so in sync. And if you ever decide that you want to, go out on your own, you should come team up with me. Because I just have sat in so many meetings and said, like, this isn't just about what we want them to think. This is about how we want them to feel. And that's not just for marketing. It's for internal communications. It's for change management. It's for all of those things. And I'm an ENFP, so I've got the F in spades, so it's I'm always the one. But sometimes when you're talking to a group of INTJs, they're like, yeah, but who really cares how people feel? And you have to make that case. Have you ever run into that?
Oh yeah, that's what makes life beautiful, right? That we all have different points of view. I had a boss once who said, if the folks who worked for me all felt the same way about things, I'd only need one of you. And so I really enjoy working with people who have different points of view. And it helps me be better and sharper in my game. And, there are times, I'll contradict myself, there are times where people need to know things. Like our elected officials need to know that, our net price to students over the last 6 years has gone down in every category. It's basically, if you're a student from a family that makes $110,000 or less a year, you are actually paying less today than you were 6 years ago. And that's not even adjusting for inflation.
Wow.
Yep. The only category in which its net price has gone up has been for families with over $110,000 in annual income. And even that's only been 3%. Again, not inflation adjusted. So elected officials need to know that kind of thing. But I would say for the broad category of our audiences, it's really about what's that feeling? What's that confidence?
Yeah. Yeah. That's where the magic is in marketing, I think.
Mm-hmm. And it goes, the expression is, we want to win their hearts and minds, not their minds and hearts. Hearts come first.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, and I had posted on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago that facts inform, stories transform. And you really do need both. You need to inform people. You can't just be like, here's a story, come here. And they're like, I don't even know where you're located. I don't know what you offer. I don't know how much this is going to cost. Obviously, there has to be a mix, but it's an incomplete mix without both.
Right. No. And it's like we were talking earlier about, selling houses and, the photos. You don't sell your house by talking about your HVAC or your new electrical system. You sell your house by showing the curb appeal, get people in the door, and then you hit them with all the interesting facts about the place.
Yeah. I guarantee nobody's walked through a house and been like, I just love that this has a new HVAC system.
Exactly.
That's it. This is it. This is the house for me. It has to feel right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I could talk to you all day because I just really enjoy this conversation. But, people won't listen to a 25-hour podcast. But if people want to talk to you, where can they find you?
I'm on LinkedIn at Grant J. Heston, and I'm launching my own little website, it's really creatively named. It's grantheston.com, but it's still a work in progress. So if you see anything flamingly wrong with it, please let me know.
I love that. And listeners, as always, you can find me on LinkedIn at Jaime Hunt. Remember, that's spelled Jaime because I'm named after the Bionic Woman. And you can find me on TikTok at The Higher Ed CMO and also on my website at solvehighered.com. I'm really eager to chat with folks. If you have any questions or thoughts, please feel free to reach out. And in the meantime, let's go bust some silos. Confessions of a Higher Ed CMO is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry best as your hosts. Learn from Mallory Wilsey, Seth Odell, Jenny Lee Fowler, Eddie Francis, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.